Welcome. Welcome to another Medical Mondays with Dr. O. What an exciting season, an exciting period. Today, we're going to continue on suicide, depression, and racial disparity. However, we are going to be focusing on our youth, our young adults, addictions, and social pressures. So we have a few things to talk about tonight. It's not that huge. You will see how it all ties together. I am Dr. Opesanmi. I'm an HIV specialist. I'm also a family practitioner, and I treat addictions in Maryland. I have passion for medical missions, health fairs, nationally and internationally, and I love for us all to learn more about each other, to have knowledge that gives us power, which is the reason, or one of the reasons why this forum exists. So today we're going to start with one of the amazing people I have met. I don't know if anyone remember Reggie Jr. Lewis. He was a basketballer. He was the captain of his team. He was great at what he did. Unfortunately, he had a cardiac condition that was, that led to him being taken out from us early. He died very young, while still playing basketball because of this cardiac issue. However, since then, I have met his biological brother, Mr. Irvin Lewis. And when I met him, it wasn't in a very good circumstance. I'll let him himself talk about it. But in later years, one day, he asked me to watch an interview on TV. He said it was occurring that day, an interview in Baltimore City. I could not stop crying. I couldn't wait till I saw him again. And I had lots of questions for him, which he was gracious to answer. So tonight, I've asked him to come tell us his story in a short, in short few sentences. Because, I told you about his brother. They were raised together in the inner city of Baltimore. But Mr. Irvin Lewis made other choices than his younger brother. So I'm going to have him address us for a few minutes before we go on. Mr. Lewis, kindly unmute. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. How y'all doing?
Doing well.
All right.
Good evening. Hi.
Yeah, well, I'm in here in Baltimore, and I'm really at work. But I'm glad Dr. O, in the spirit of the moment, just asked me would I share some things with y'all about my upbringing. And my upbringing was pretty good. To me anyway. I come from a single family household of one sister, older, and two other brothers. And as she mentioned, one of my brothers happened to, fortunately, play for the Boston Celtics, made it out of the ghetto, and I didn't. And I'm the older one. And she asked me a question earlier, how did I feel about that? And I told her simple, I felt good about it because he did the right things and I did the wrong things, as she said a little bit earlier. You know what I mean? I chose the streets and he didn't. And we was really about the same height at one time, and he just outgrew me. became 6'7", and I was just a mere 6 feet. So he really outgrew me, and he grew because he did the right things. He stayed out the streets. And I was sharing with Dr. O earlier. I thought the streets had stunted my growth because when my, like she said, my brother had a tragic death. He died young in age 26, and he died by cardiac arrest. He loved to play basketball. He died doing something that he loved to do, and um, it hurted me to my heart to lose my brother, and it was just like a part of me died. So I was suffering from depression, and I met Dr. O, and I came to her, and I was suffering from drug abuse also. So I came to Dr. O from a program that I'm working for now. Thank God, I've been working for him for over 5 years now, through the grace of God. And I met Dr. O about 7 years ago, and I was I was I was I was messed up, and she helped me. Thank God, she helped me get to where I'm at now, because without Dr. O, I don't know where it would have ended, because she helped me get where I'm at now with the encouragement, with the proper medications, and she said I did a show, and it was called The Baltimore Boys, and they interviewed my mother and as well as me about our upbringing in Baltimore and coming up and from Baltimore, and they wondered how that a guy like my brother never used drugs in a environment like the one that is in Baltimore City. And it was kind of simple. He did the right things. He was around the right people. He didn't. He chose basketball other than the streets. And to sum it up, it was the streets that led me in the wrong direction, where basketball led him in the right direction. And by him staying the course with basketball, it turned out that way. His gift. That's all my brother never worked. Only job that he ever had was 14, 16 summer job. Other than that, he worked for basketball and became the captain of the Boston Celtics. That's the only job he ever had. And basketball was his livelihood, and that's what kept him out of trouble. But like I say, and it was just a little bit different for me, because I was ambitious. I wanted to just try the streets, and I knew I just couldn't beat the streets. So that's when I turned to Dr. O, and Dr. O gave me a shot of hope. That's what I would call it. And I'm grateful. I owe a lot to you, Dr. O. I'm really, really, my gratitude go beyond measures for what you have helped me with. And I just hope that you continue with your program. I hope that y'all can grow like my brother grew. You know what I mean? And in those 6 years, he became the captain of the Boston Celtics. And it was short, but it was sweet. But you never know where God can lead you. And he, like I said, he gave me another chance. And right here today, I've been 8 years clean through the grace of God. I haven't had a mind-altering drug since April the 24th of 2014. And I'm continuing my journey. And my journey is really just beginning. I'm engaged to be married. I drive a 2020 a vehicle. You know, man, God gave me an upgrade. Like I said, I give a lot of credit to Dr. O for helping me with my process, because if without her, I don't think I would have been able to manage. So, Dr. O, I just would.
Thank you so much. But we're going to give all of the glory to the Lord God Almighty. It's only Him.
Amen. Amen to that.
It's only Him who can change lives, who can change souls. I am grateful for you. You excite me all the time. I remembered when you came to the office and you dangled a key in front of me.
Yeah,
and you dangled a key in front of me and you said, Dr. O, I just bought my brand new car.
Right.
Remember, I danced. One of the occasions of the dance. And
beautiful.
Yes. And now you're getting married. You are helping other people who
Absolutely.
are in addiction. You are helping them to turn their lives around. That's what you do for a living now. And
I'm a house manager.
You're the house manager.
Yes.
In there, you know, helping to turn people's lives around to, you know, become productive citizens like you have become. So it's not where one has been, it's where one is and where one is going is what matters. You know, I say that all the time. And you are a stellar example of, you know, what God is doing in our midst. However, you know, I've asked you before, yes, you came from a single parent background. It was your mom who raised you guys, but she raised you the same way.
Absolutely.
She raised you and Reggie Jr. the same way, and you chose the streets. What was lacking? What caused that is, you know, something that I think we should learn so that we can guard against it for the future.
I never had a father figure, you know what I mean, being without a father figure. I had a big brother that was in the streets that he didn't leave me. He would encourage me to do the right things, but he was older, but he was someone that I looked up to. But he was a drug dealer. You know what I mean? He ran numbers and stuff like that. So the streets it's all I knew. You know what I mean? That environment. That's all I knew. And I didn't have a man at home, so I just ran the streets. Thank
you so much. Thank you for coming, and thank you for contributing so awesomely. Does anyone have an input or a question? I'm going to ask a pastor and attorney Onigbinde to unmute. And yeah.
Oh, well, good evening, everyone. And I just want to appreciate Mr. Lewis. It's not hard. I mean, it's not easy to be vulnerable. It's not easy to open up, you know, yourself and tell people where you've been or where you are, so that we can also, you know, so that people can learn. I remember I was, I don't know, I mean, my work as a pastor, you know, makes me to, you know, have to do a little bit of balance. And I remember just very early this afternoon, because I have a program tonight after my contribution here. I have to preach. And I find myself in a portion of the Bible that talks about how things happen for our example. And, you know, this is something historical about why people are being, what happened to them. And how now you don't just listen to it. You don't just read about it. You also have to say, oh, you know, this is where they fall. And I can't go into the same ditch again. This is direction they went, and then I can't go there and all that. And so all of what you have told us now is along the line of making us to know that not only that God can do a redeeming work in lives, but also that your story is something that we need to learn from. And so I was reading 1 Corinthians chapter 10,
Present.
and Paul says, moreover, brethren, I do not want you to be unaware that all our fathers were under the cloud. All passed through the sea, and all were baptized into Moses in the cloud and in the sea. And all ate the same spiritual food, and all drank the same spiritual drink, for they drank of that spiritual rock that followed them, and that rock was Christ. But with most of them, God was not pleased, for their bodies were scattered in the wilderness. And then he said, now these things became our examples, to the intent that we should not lust after evil things as they also lusted. I mean, that is really, really profound, because you now know that this is not just something you read. I mean, we are not just listening to the story of, Bra Lewis and say, oh, wow, what happened to you? What did you do? The reason why he has told us this is so that we can also learn as an example, learn that God can change life, and also learn that we don't have to do what he did. We don't have to go where he had been. And so I just want to, appreciate him. And I think he is an example of what God can do. But it also is also an example of what we have to do. I mean, side by side with what God does sovereignly is also what human beings have to do responsibly. The sovereignty of God and the responsibility of man is something that stands side by side. Now, if God wants to help you, he's using Dr. O to sending her your way to help you. And then you also have to be responsible and say, you know what, I want to do something with my life. I want to turn things around. And so, I mean, your life is indeed a lesson to, every one of us listening to you. And I want to thank you for coming in.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that input. Dr. William Craig said, power to you, Mr. Lewis. You speak of the absence of a male figure. If one was present, what do you think you would have received, which would have stopped you from the draw of the streets? So I'm going to ask you to unmute to answer that question.
I don't know if a father figure would have changed me, but it would have helped me, because it would have probably led me in the direction that my brother went. Because my brother learned, even in the times that he learned what not to do. He seen what I did. He learned what not to do. So he seen me do the wrong, so he knew what to do the right. But he knew that I played basketball also. So he took the skills that I had in basketball and ran with it. Because my brother, he liked the football at first. He didn't play basketball until I needed somebody tall to play basketball with me, because I played basketball before him. And basketball was my passion and my first love before his first love, because he liked the football. So he took the passion that I have in basketball and ran with it. But the thing that he looked up to me as a big brother. So that helped him with like not having a father. You know what I mean? He had a brother that kept him out of trouble. I was like his protector. And having a father figure maybe would have kept me from doing the wrong thing. I would have had something to look at. Now that I look at the Lord, you know what I mean, as my keeper, he kept me strong, the Lord. But my father, if I had one in my life at the time, I would have had something to role model after. And by me not having a role model father, then I just chose the streets.
You know, something just occurred to me. You have an older brother who was on the streets. That could have been a father figure, but it wasn't. You were but even though you were on the streets, you still protected your younger brother, Reggie Jr. Lewis. That's incredible.
I didn't have I'm the oldest. I had a brother that's in the street that I looked up as a big brother. He
Oh,
was
but
like
not your biological brother. Okay,
not my biological brother.
I see.
Right. Yeah, but my brother, I was his protector. I protected my brothers as well as my sister and my mother. But wow.
So you knew intuitively, you knew you should not be on the streets. You
Right.
knew that this was not right. What was it that prevented you from then making that U-turn to say, okay, I'm not going to do it also anymore?
Enough was enough. I had to surrender. Age, I didn't want my grandkids to see me in that condition. I just wanted to get the full potential because I wasn't raised, even though I didn't have a father figure at home, my mother instilled in us, you know what I mean? I went to church and all that as a kid. You know what I mean? I didn't do the best in church, but we did had to go to church, you know what I mean, as a child. But my mother, she did the best that she could, you know what I mean, raising four kids on her own. And what made me change is that I wanted my mother to see me in a different light. I didn't want her to see me. I wanted her to see her son, the fullness of her son. She already had the one that played basketball. I'm her number one son. She calls me her number one son because I'm the oldest. And I wanted my mother to get to see the potential that God knew that I had in the beginning.
So in Baltimore on the streets, I've been told by some young ones, teenagers even, that the streets is the place to be because that's where you make money. That's how you can make money. Was that something that influenced you to the streets?
Yes, because it was plentiful. Everything that you wanted was in the streets. It was plentiful. It's not like it is now, but people made lots of money. You know what I mean? They looked up to the drug dealers because they the ones that had the money. The drug dealers were the ones that had the money.
So Dr. Craig has another question for you. That's a great point. I mean, that's a great point. That's what I live with every day to work against. But Dr. Craig says, Mr. Lewis, in your years of growing up, becoming a man, what were your thoughts about Martin Luther King or Malcolm X? Did they ever influence your thoughts?
Yes. Both, and to this day, Malcolm X and Martin Luther King helped me deal with people because the background by Martin Luther King being on the Christ-like side and Malcolm X being on the Muslim side, it helped me to deal with different backgrounds. And in my field of work, I have all different type of people that come straight off the streets and worse condition than I was in. And they need a shot of hope. And what Malcolm X and Martin Luther King gave me coming up was a shot of hope.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. I'm going to bring up somebody real quick. This person I'm bringing up is dear to my heart also. She's somebody that is like a daughter to me. And so I'm bringing her up to share a story really briefly. Adeyinka, I'm going to ask you to unmute. You ready? There you go. You're muted. Welcome. Welcome, my dear, to Medical Monday.
Thank you, thank you. I'll probably be in and out of the camera because my daughter's running around.
Oh, you're
But
good. You're good.
I don't know where to start. But I'm gonna start by saying thank you, Dr. O, for inviting me here, and thank you for everything that you've done for me. And you know, for everyone who doesn't know, Dr. O is the reason why I'm in Maryland now. If it wasn't for her motivation, I would probably be back in North Carolina where I was. And honestly, I would probably be either dead or in jail or locked up in an institution. So I'm gonna start where everything began. Most of my issues where I can recognize that, you know, there was something wrong started when I was very young, like as long as I can, as early as I can remember anything. I remember always having a feeling like I wasn't normal or something was wrong, or, you know, I just always like in my mind, I would always think like, why am I even here? What's my purpose of being here? You know, it started with thoughts like that. My mother, you know, who I love dearly, who fought for me through thick and thin, through everything, you know, who put herself through so much because of me, because she loved me. You know, she was working very hard when we were younger to be able to provide for me and my brother. I had an older sister who passed away from a brain tumor when she was 7. And that devastated my mother, but she fought through that to take care of me and my brother. When I was younger, I had a different thought about the things that she used to do. Like, you know, I didn't see it as her working hard to take care of us. I seen it as her being, you know, selfish. And I felt like she didn't love me. And I thought that she, you know, she just didn't want to be at home. And a lot of times it was just me and my brother because my dad was always gone. And I always used to have this feeling of loneliness and a feeling of like not being loved, a feeling of dread where I felt like I needed somebody. I have to also mention my parents were born and raised in Nigeria in a completely different culture. Like everything you can imagine here, it's very different there. The things that are the norm here are abnormal there. So my mom, you know, she raised me the best way she could. You know, I was disciplined often. Like I now have a diagnosis of ADHD, but when I was younger, I was all over the place running around. She didn't understand it. She felt like she could just pray and it would go away. There was a lot of effects that this had on me because in school, people made fun of me, not only because they thought I was weird and I had a huge problem communicating. You know, I was teased very much. Like I was teased to the point where, you know, I loved school so much. Like I loved learning, but I felt like the kids would literally just bully me to death. But I went every day because I loved school. I didn't want to complain too much because I felt like, you know, if somebody got in trouble, then, you know, they would bully me even more. So I was tormented, you know, with harsh words. You know, I was made fun of for my culture, my looks, you know, being dark skinned, being, too tall, being just everything you could just think of. It felt like nobody liked anything about me. That is when I feel like my dependency for wanting people to love me and wanting people, I just felt like I needed somebody to just love me. And I felt like it didn't matter who did. It didn't matter if it was a man. It didn't matter if it was a woman. It didn't matter if it was a child. Because I just always had that feeling. And like I said, my mother, they were raised differently. So there were a few times that like I was at the peak of feeling so horrible about myself because I just felt like nobody liked me. And when I tried to tell my mother or my father, they would say, "You're not here for people to like you." And it just like, I guess that's when I kind of started acting out a little bit. I remember my earliest memories, I used to literally steal money from my parents to give to people at school. Like I would give it to the girls, not even the popular ones, the regular ones, just so they would be my friends. And even when I did that, they still didn't like me. And they made fun of me and made rumors about me. So that I started doing anything for love. I'm just gonna mention this and throw it out here. I'm 31 years old and I have 8 children. I have given birth to 8 children. When I was young, when I was about, my first child, I had it when I was 15. I was pregnant when I was 14. I had it when I was 15. And I let people do things to me. Like I'm just gonna put it like this in short words. I didn't have all my children do things that I wanted to do. Even if I didn't want to do things, I still allowed it to be done to me just because I felt like, okay, if I let this happen, maybe they would at least want to be my friend, maybe want to talk to me every now and then. And I put myself even, when that, I finally got a little bit smarter and I started getting in these relationships that I knew like the person didn't want me for me. That wasn't what they wanted, but I would get in that relationship just because I wanted the person, I wanted that connection. I wanted somebody that I could feel like was mine. So then I started like being, I would say somewhat promiscuous. And the people who I were like, every guy I was in a relationship from then, a serious relationship, I had a child with. And of course, after that, they would just leave. I felt like these are the things I should have known better. But my mother, she never had to talk with me about men and boys because she always wanted to protect me. Now I know she was trying to protect me. She would dress me in baggy clothes to school, like boys' clothes, baggy shirts. And that contributed to a lot of my bullying because people would say, "Oh, she's a man." But now I know she was trying to protect me from exactly what I put myself through. And from there, things just got worse and worse. When I could not get love anymore, I started, hanging out with people, if I couldn't, I started hanging out with people who I knew weren't good people. I would do anything, basically anything then to get money, shoplift, not because I wanted the money, but because I felt like if I had money, people would want to hang around me. So that's that. So when people ask me what led me to drugs, I used to blame other people, like, oh, this person is the one that gave me this first. But I have to honestly say, I did it because I wanted to. I wanted to fit in. I wanted to, I wanted people to like me. And I felt like if I had the money and I had, the party things that people liked, then they would hang around me. And like, I can't even describe my drug use. First, it was marijuana. It went from that to like pills. It went from that to, just drinking, heavily drinking, being an alcoholic. All the while, the children that I had given birth to at that time, at the time I was doing that drinking and smoking, I only had 2 children then. All the while, they were with my mother. She took them in. She took them in because she did not want, she didn't want them to end up with someone else who wasn't good. I think by then she started to see, she started to understand me a little bit more and see what, being kind of, not abandoned, but being kind of like, pushed to the side and misunderstood could affect a child. And I feel like that's a lot of what happened to me, I feel like is the reason why she stepped up so, with all her will and everything, like she's given up her life for my children, my older children. She's given up her whole entire life for them. Like when I got into, the things that actually made me hit rock bottom, I was 19. And one day I was at a hotel somewhere in Raleigh, North Carolina. And an older guy, like he had to be around 50 years old. He like complimented me, and he had little children with him at the time. And I had always had this thing like where I love children. And one thing I beat myself up with is I love children, but my children couldn't motivate me at that time to stop using as much as I love children, and I love children. I seen him with his children, so for some reason I have an issue even to this day, but I'm a lot better. Like I'm a lot more. I don't know how to say the word. I'm able to stand up for myself a little more, and I'm able to know when people, I can kind of see through people a lot more. I'm not as gullible as I used to be and naive. I automatically thought this guy was a good guy because he had young children with him. Probably my second night, because I was staying at a hotel with some other people at this time, he asked me if I could come up to his room because his daughter wanted to meet me. She said, like, oh, my daughter, she's seeing you outside. And she's like, who's that girl? And his daughter was there at first when I got up there. But shortly after, like probably within 5 or 10 minutes, her mother came and picked her up. And the real reason why he invited me up there came out. He said, have you ever tried, pain before? And at the time, like I had never done anything like that. I had never even seen it at that point. And for some reason, I knew I should have walked out of that room, but I just felt like I couldn't. I felt like I couldn't say no. Like the pain and whatever else that I had been carrying all my life, it's almost like it had the ability to just make me not want to say no to somebody, maybe in fear that they would be mean to me or curse me out or but I stayed. I sat there. I said no, and he started doing it in front of me. And when he offered it to me, I knew I should have said no. I knew in my gut, I felt that my stomach was hurting. I was nervous, I was sweating, but I did it anyway. And from that day on, my life just got worse and worse. It's like I finally found something. I felt like I found something that made me feel like I won't say love, but it made me feel like I didn't need anybody. It erased all the thoughts that run through my head. It erased all the racing thoughts that I had. It just took it's almost like instantaneously, everything that I was carrying with me just dissipated. And I felt not happy, but I felt relieved. Shortly after that, within the next year, 2 years, 3 years go by, because when you're doing this, years, just days, months, years just go by. And you won't even realize it because you're so stuck in the cycle of going to get more, trying to get more, looking for ways to get more. Like I had a conversation with my mother the other day, and I thought to myself, like I was complaining about my brother, like, and how lucky he was if he didn't have a criminal record. And the thought came to my mind, I would not have a criminal record if not for drugs. I never did anything wrong when I was sober. I'm the happiest person when I'm sober. I mean, I am emotional. I do get emotional at things like seeing people on the street, seeing kids on the TV starving. I am emotional, but I'm usually very happy, like 90% of the time. And I just looked at that fact that every time I ever stole something, it was to get money for drugs. Every time I ever got into an argument or a fight with somebody, or been in a situation where I got pulled over and there were drugs in the car, it was always the drugs that put me in that situation. And even that was not enough to make me stop. So I remember a day my mom told me that I had graduated to heroin, and that was what led me to where I am now. Like I see it almost as a curse, but at the same time I see it as a blessing. Because when I was on cocaine, I never ever had the intention to quit. I felt like I couldn't quit even if I wanted to, even if I fought hard. I felt like that's where I needed to be. And I carried a lot of guilt with me because I felt like I had abandoned my children. I disappointed my mother, everyone who ever believed in me, everyone who ever had faith in me. Like even my grandfather, who I gave the hardest time when they sent me to Nigeria. I mean, like I don't see how he could have ever loved me the way I treated him at his old age. And he died, and he passed away just knowing I was an addict. And my mother said that he always used to say that she's gonna stop. She's gonna stop. She's gonna stop. Don't worry. Don't cry. Don't stress yourself. She's gonna stop. The countless times I've overdosed, that didn't help. I seen one of my children cry. My son David, he cried one day because he thought I was dying. Like, what, I wasn't dying. I was just, the drugs had me out of my mind. I was screaming in the neighborhood, throwing my hands, and that little boy got on his knees and he cried. He cried for his mother. He said, "Mommy, please stop." Even though he's been calling my mom all her life, he looked at me and he said, "Mommy, stop." And that was not enough. Finally, 2016, I think that's when I spoke to Dr. O. Well, I spoke to my mother, who told me if because I've tried to come to Maryland before from North Carolina. I actually moved here 4 times. First time in 2008. And every time I came, I ended up leaving within 3 weeks. As soon as I started to, as soon as I got some rest, a few weeks of rest, my body started feeling good again. It's almost like that evil thing, because I see drugs as a part of the devil. Like, I see not the devil himself, but anything that can control somebody like that and make them do things that they would never do, things they say they would never do. Things that when they think about it, when they're not on drugs, they're repulsed enough to throw up. Evil things, repulsive things, but 2016, my mom got in touch with Dr. O. At first, I didn't know how they met. I just assumed like my mom went to her, to her clinic. But later I found out that they met at a convention for people like me.
Party.
So she would be able to understand. Oh, a party.
We met at a party.
She met at a party. Okay. But then Dr. O later told me she went to a place to actually get to know the science behind, what's happening to me. Because at first I felt like she didn't care. I did not know she even cared.
Broken home cell.
So I'm gonna wrap the story up, because I've been going on and on, because it's so much. It's really hard to compact. But just to round it up, my mom got in touch with Dr. O. She said, if you come here, she'll be able to get you on some medication that will stabilize you. It's almost like one night when I finally did decide to come, it's like the Spirit of God, I'm just gonna say that, the Spirit of God came over me. It's almost like everything lined up the way it was supposed to happen. My brother ended up coming from Maryland to North Carolina to visit some of his friends. He was leaving the next day. He called me that night and said, "Do you want to come?" And in my mind, I was saying, I really don't want to go. I don't want to go. I had money too that I was using, but then I listened. It's like something came over me, and I put on some gospel music, and it's like the Lord like touched me as I was listening to the music. It's like I prayed. And it's like I felt like I didn't even want to see, I didn't want to be anywhere around drugs. And how I know that there's evil in that thing, it's so many people, like every other day when I would be trying to find something and find somebody to buy me something, nobody would ever answer the phone. People started calling me, asking me if I wanted something. And I just thank God. I thank God that I was able to come here. I was able to get stabilized. It wasn't an easy journey. I did have a slip up, but I can proudly say that it's been 2.5 years now since I used.
Amen.
I'm still on stabilization meds. But honestly, sometimes I feel like it's bad for me to be on this medicine. I should be, but it's helping me. I've been stable on it on the same dose. And I just thank God that I'm here. I thank God for my life. I thank God for my mother. I thank God for my children. I thank God for my partner, my fiance. We have 2 young children together. We have a 3-year-old. They both just, last month, they turned 3 and 1. And I thank God for them because, you know, I never got a chance to really take care of my other children. Because as soon as, you know, the father left, it's like, I said, I'm abandoned. Like every time I look at this child, I'm gonna feel the abandonment. And that's how I felt because my mind, everything, I was just like an empty shell. But that's it. Yeah, I'm not gonna keep talking you guys to death.
Thank you so
for
much.
listening.
Thank you.
You for the guy before me that shared his story. His story was just beautiful as well. You know, I thank God for your life. I thank God for everything you're doing. Like I always say, like when I get where I really want to be in life, like even now I do little things now and then. I just want to help people. Like I want to give back because God has given me so much. My mother has given me so much. She has 4 of my children. You know, she's very attached to them. You know, she's not really willing to, you know, loosen the reins, but that's okay. That's okay. You know, they call both of us mom. It's kind of weird, but it's okay because I know she loves them with all her heart, and they give her a reason to get up every day and keep going because she's been through a lot herself. She's been through a lot herself. I didn't know half of what my mother went through until about a year ago. I didn't know. But through everything she's been through, she was still there. So I give all the thanks to God, her, and you, Dr. O, because for some reason, you know, doctors have tried to get me to come here before. My mom has told me about all kinds of other people or places I could go. But for some reason, when I spoke to you, you spoke to me with such respect and you made me feel like a human being that was just lost, that just needed to be brought back, that just needed to find her way home. Thank you.
Thank you. Yinka, thank you so much. I just want to tell you some of the things that have been said in the chat box.
Mm-hmm.
They said, thanks for sharing your story with us. You need to write a book. I'm going to help you with that. But it's a very brave young lady. Thank you for sharing your story. God bless you and your family.
Thank you.
You are brave, strong woman. Wow. This is an eye-opener on a different level. I can't stop crying. God bless your mother. And indeed, God bless your mother. I know her. And today it's your story. So I'm just going to leave her. God bless
Amen.
her.
Amen.
Amen.
Dr. Craig said, not sure if you can feel this or understand this, but the ability of you to be here and speak requires an extraordinary strength. Trust and believe that you have the strength to take the next step. I think that is key. That is the, summary of this. And Dr. Ephraim is giving you big hugs. He says, you are awesome. Thanks for what you've chosen to do with the rest of your life. God bless you dearly. Dr. Richard Williams says, thank you for sharing your story. Very inspiring. God bless you.
Thank you so much.
Candice Guy says, always show love and kindness to another person you never know. You never know what they're going through. Sending love to you, sister. And Dr. Ayodele Ajayi from London said, thank you so much for being so brave in sharing your story in such an authentic way, Ms. Adeyemi. Attorney Marsha Edwards said, may you continue to grow in strength and grace. You are a beautiful spirit. Much love to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody.
She says, much love to you and to your wonderful mother. You are loved more than you will ever know. God bless you for your courage and your openness. And Pastor and Attorney Onigbinde says, Miss Adeyemi, your life is a motivation to many and a hope for what God can do to turn a life around. I pray that God perfects what he has begun in your life. We love you.
Amen.
I just wanted you to see what people, the heartbeat of this audience. Thank you for, oh, that was meant for me.
Thank you for being so kind, everyone.
Adeyinka, everything they've said is true about you. Have you heard me tell you this?
Yes.
I have not talked to any of these people, but they've echoed the same thing over and over again. What you didn't say is that you are in college.
Yeah.
Yes, you personally taking care of these last 2 of your 8 children, but you are in college at the same time and you're responsible with it. Even, you know, I am proud of you. This whole platform is proud of you, and sky is not the limit for you. Thank you for coming to share. I want to say, though, that you said something that I want us to note. I want parents to note. I want you also, Adeyinka, to note, because you're a mother and you have children that you're raising. You said your mom, when you were rambunctious, when you were going through things you were going through, she was working. And I know your mom worked hard just to fend for her family. She was out there working. She thought she would pray it away.
Yeah.
So one of the take homes I want to encourage us to have here is, you know, mental health is real. And when a child is diagnosed with mental health, it is important that if they need intervention, even medication, we should allow it so that, you know, they can be well and they can attain their fullness. Adeyinka, stop feeling guilty.
Yeah, it's taken a long time.
Yes.
A lot of my guilt is gone. You know, every now and then, you know, something will pop up and I'll think about something like, you know, what would have happened if, you know, I never went the path I did. Sometimes I think about that. Sometimes I think about, like, you know, what if my sister never passed away? You know, that caused a lot of heartbreak in my mother. And she, you know, she even admitted like she wasn't the best person she could be because she was going through so much pain with that loss. And it happened so quickly. You know, she was diagnosed and she died within a year. And she was confused and she didn't understand. And there's other things that were attached to that. You know, she was going through issues with my father. You know, he wasn't, you know, really stepping up the way he should have. You know, even he said that to me. And there was eviction notes on the door. Every single, you know, the people kept coming back, and she always feared. Because when my mother came here, she came here with a teaching degree. And she knew in her heart that she had to do something, you know, in case that, you know, what my father wasn't doing didn't work out. She had to do something to be able to provide for us. Like, I was in her stomach when she was in nursing school. When she did her exam, I was in her stomach when she did her exam to become a nurse. And that's why she says I love to learn now, because anything I think about, I just have to know it. I have to know. Like if somebody says something and I don't know what it means, I will look it up on the spot.
And Adeyinka, you're doing fantastic. Look,
Thank
it's
you.
not where you have been, it's where you are now and where you're going that matters. We are still journeying together. And guess what?
Yeah.
We will get there. Hang
Yeah.
tight. Sister Karen
Amen.
said, your testimony will empower you to move forward to great heights in your life. May God continue to bless you and protect you as you go forward. So
Amen.
now I'm going to turn gears a little bit. I want to turn gears to some of our young adults in the audience. I have Christina. Christina, are you around? Yes, kindly unmute Christina Ojo. And I'm coming to you, Dr. Aluya, Dr. Ajayi. I'm coming to you. Christina.
Yes.
Fantastic. So Christina is, well, I'll let you introduce yourself. If you don't do a good enough job, I'm going to interject, okay?
Okay. Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Christina Ojo. I'm currently a rising third-year pharmacy student at the College of Pharmacy and at Howard University. I'm currently working with the Office of the DC Representative, Representative Oye. And I think those are the only things.
You're good. You're good. Now, give us your input. You've been on the forum.
Yes. So I would say, as a young adult, I really appreciate you inviting me onto this panel as well, and I appreciate all the perspectives that I've heard so far, and all the words that I've heard so far from those that are older, and what they've been through. And I can identify with some of the sentiments, especially in my parents as well. And then, some of the things that I went through as a Nigerian, a first generation Nigerian woman growing up in America. So I would have to say that I guess I really, and I'm not really sure where I want to take this, but I did have an upbringing in which my parents, they came from Nigeria. My dad was an accountant and he was a professor in Nigeria. My mom was in engineering and she was in the military, and they both came together when they had married. My dad became a practitioner in mental health, and my mom became a pharmacist. So I had really amazing examples within my life of where they wanted me to go, specifically into the medical field. And those were the type of things that I was around. So I had an upbringing where we lived comfortably. As much as we went to private schools, I may have been bullied a little bit, or a lot by students that look different from me, white students, Hispanic students, Asian students, and they wouldn't understand everything about my culture. It wasn't to the extent in which it really made me feel out of place, because my parents created a space for me, and their own association where children like myself could really explore our culture and our identities in the United States. So I feel like my parents they were very aware of what could happen, and they created a foundation for me in which I feel comfortable growing up, despite the things that may have occurred. And I really feel like they were able to set me up for becoming a young professional right now. I was disciplined a lot, like a lot of other Nigerian young Nigerians that I talk to, it's probably the same ways. But like my mother always used to say, she used to say that you'll thank me or you'll understand where I'm coming from when you're older. And now I kind of do. As much as I didn't appreciate it at the time, I do understand where she's coming from. And I now have, or I feel like I can have a little bit of grace for my mother. So that's what I would say. Hello.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And Congressman Adeyemi Owulewa, welcome. Welcome. I see you're still at work, actually.
How are you? Yes.
Welcome.
Still alive in the pharmacy, but I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to call on Akin Opesanmi. That's my son. I can kindly unmute.
Yep.
Great. So your perspective. You're growing up now. I'm the one now on scrutiny. When
You're
you
not
get
on
it's me now on scrutiny. So hit it, son. Go ahead.
no scrutiny. I have reevaluated my perspective on growing up a lot in the last, I guess, couple years, last 3 to 5 years. It's given me a lot of space. My therapist and I talked about how it's so interesting that my mother and my father had my brother and myself younger than I am right now. And just seeing my friends that have children and seeing how they obviously don't have all the answers. But when I was a child, I thought my parents had all the answers or assumed that they had some secret hidden education on parenting and life, when in actuality, you guys were just trying to do the best that you could with the information you had, the life experiences you had, and how you guys were raised kind of sifted down to you, and you kind of dispelled how you thought you should raise my older brother and myself. But we were raised as first generation Americans. It was interesting living in lower socioeconomic Baltimore growing up. We had 2 very distinct experiences where we grew up in a place that we were surrounded by lower socioeconomic Black people, but we would go to a private school where we were some of the only Black people in an all-white school. And then we were sent home to Nigeria to experience and be exposed to our culture. Those were 2 years that taught me a lot about life. It was a very trying time. And then 2 years in Texas, where we were now upper middle class. So we were Black, but in an older white community, and then went to a private school with all white people again, but in Texas. So that was a completely different experience. There were cross sections of racism, prejudice, privilege, being a minority, but also being an African minority, where the assumption that we had to dispel some assumptions that people had about Africans. Now it's cool to be African. Afrobeats kind of run music. Like, people appreciate the intelligence, the work ethic, the skills that Africans have. But back then it was, did you live in huts? Did you have a pet lion? Do you have a tail? Stuff like that. And then we came back to Maryland, and we were raised in another all white community again. It's kind of a thread that happened as I got older. But my parents were very special because they weren't the stereotypical, in my opinion, Nigerian parents that like demanded that my brother or I be boxed into you have to do this, this, and this to be successful. The only thing that they demanded was excellence. They demanded that whatever we try hard, we put effort into it, and we see things through. I'd always wanted to be a physician. Both of my parents are physicians. So that was something that I was very passionate about. That was the only job I ever wanted from when I was a child. And then after a conversation with my father, my junior year of high school, he thought that medicine probably should not be the path for me. And he thought law would be a better union of my gifts with my potential future. So I figured I would just do both medicine and law. But they never pushed me or my brother to do anything. My brother never wanted to go into medicine, never wanted to go into law or engineering or anything like that. He always had a very different path, and he followed that path, and he is very successful in the path that he chose. I'm an attorney, ended up not going to medical school, did follow the suggestion from my father, and I am an attorney, but I do other things as well. But I was raised to think for myself. I was raised to be independent. My brother and I were very independent. We were latchkey kids. From the time we were very young, we would have to be at home alone. Both of my parents worked a lot. My brother had to get a hardship license when he was 15 so he could drive me to school in Texas. And I think we were the first kids in school with cell phones, not because it was cool to have a cell phone, but because like we needed to be in contact with our parents. But it taught me a lot. It's made me grow into a very independent, and I would like to think thoughtful young man. I depend on myself for everything I need, but I know I have a very strong support system that I can rely on, thanks to my wonderful mom and my family. But I think I was raised in a very particular and different way. My parents were strict, but very laissez-faire in some ways. I remember one time I got a B on a test, and I was grounded for 11 months. They said you're grounded for the rest of the year, and it happened in February. So I was going to be grounded for 11 months. And then the next day I came home and I said, hey, I'm going to the mall with my friends. And they said, okay, because they didn't really understand that grounding meant I couldn't have fun. So I still did everything I was going to do anyway. So they were strict but fair. Yeah, I think it worked out pretty well. There are a lot of things I would do differently with my children when I am raising them, but I think they did the best they could with what they had. So,
thank you so much.
Yeah,
thank you for your contribution. Before I call on the adults again to come in, I want to show a quick video clip. Dr. Ephraim, can you show that? It's about 3 minutes. Please, it's very important to tie this in together, because as we're talking, I'm wondering, we've heard, 4 amazing speakers. And I'm wondering, like somebody mentioned last week, we talked a lot about it actually, what social media have to do also now, because everyone we've talked to tonight, I think the youngest of them will be in their early 30s, 30, 31, something like that, late 20s. So now, what does social media have to do with all of this, which we didn't have to deal with when we were raising our children? Yeah, go ahead.
Make yourself comfortable. Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, how do I want to sit? This.
Water there, you need a drink.
I don't want to ruin the lipstick.
Oh, yeah.
Social media can be good, but it can be bad as well.
In terms of her building her confidence, it can build her confidence.
Margie is just trying to find herself now, you know. She's not influenced by social media yet.
Most of the influencers that I've seen have definitely had a positive impact on me.
Hey guys, here's a beauty hack I'm obsessed with. I am so happy.
Look at how cinched my waist is. Look at how flat my stomach is.
It's the shortcut to flawless skin.
You know that Botox doesn't just reduce wrinkles, right? Baby Botox is amazing. You're never too young to start.
That is not me.
There are these great powders. They stop you feeling hungry so you can always skip breakfast and lunch.
And you have to treat yourself to a chemical peel. They're a total glow up. They burn away the top layers of your skin and let new skin grow through.
Hey Amojo, if your teeth are uneven, you can always file them down with a nail file. It's literally so simple.
File your teeth.
Don't put up with your thin lips, sweetie. Lip filler kits let you inject yourself at home. They're my total go-to. Fake eyelashes are so easy to glue on if you cut your eyelashes off.
There's some really great pills you can use.
Keep telling yourself you're not hungry, you're just thirsty.
Never look bloated again.
Book it into your skin.
Sexiest Botox.
Remember, skinny is never finished.
Oh.
It's
Have you actually seen stuff like that?
yeah, a lot. This stuff is on every girl's feed. They're watching, right? I mean, at night when I can't see them.
It's scary to me that my kids are watching this and they think that's how they have to look.
I saw one of the teeth filing videos. I remember that one. I remember seeing that all over. I know this stuff. I can't prevent them from seeing these, but I can talk to them about it.
100% always be talking. And have Peyton know that she can always ask me anything.
My mom has taught me not to listen to people like that and to be proud of who I am.
So much. Thanks, AJ. I don't think Dove should focus on girls alone. I think boys should be included. And I have a surprise for you. Hold that thought. Before I go on to that surprise tonight, I'm calling on one more of our young adults. Ade Paseda, that's another son of mine. Ade, come on up.
Oh my good. Oh my
That's
goodness. Oh my goodness. Wow.
So I gave you that social media tip so that I give you more to talk about because I have a surprise.
Where do you want me to start? Where do you want me to start? All right, I think I know where I'll start. So I'm Ade Paseda, another one of Dr. O's sons. Akin is a good friend of mine. As you can probably guess, I'm Nigerian. I was raised in a Nigerian household. I'm also a girl dad, so I'm going to circle back to that in a second. But Akin and I have actually had an extensive conversation about, growing up Nigerian, right? And what that means. And so I'll start with, some of the things that I've tried to put into practice, being a father myself now. You know, as Akin mentioned, there's always a push for excellence, which there's no problem with, right? Like, there's a reason why we're the most educated group in the country, right? Like in America, we're the most educated group of people. There's a reason for that. That's because we strive for excellence at all times. Now, what I would say that we can improve on overall, right? Everybody's parents are different, and it's kind of on a scale, is just being accepting of the fact that, you know, just because something is not perfect, i.e. if you have, you know, a behavioral issue or a mental health issue or, you know, whatever it is, that in itself isn't, you know, doesn't mean that you are not worthy of, you know, being Nigerian or worthy of grace, right? And, you know, I think that that's something as a culture that we should really focus on, is just being able to recognize that, you know, in order to be great, it doesn't mean that you don't have flaws or you don't have issues, right? We all have them, and just being able to extend grace. And on the note of grace, right? You know, my daughter's 5 years old. There's no manual for being a parent, right? I know that my parents didn't parent me the way that their parents parented them. Every generation, you know, our goal should be to be mindful and to try to take the positive things from our parents, and then try to improve upon it for the next generation, so that we raise whole healthy human beings. So what I mean is mentally, physically, everything, a completely whole and healthy child. That should be our goal as parents, right? And again, there's no manual, so there are things that I'm sure I do wrong, right? Like there's no way I don't do things wrong. But again, you know, just trying to be mindful of my approach to my daughter. One thing I'll say, and you know, this is not to knock anybody, is we don't spank Elena, right? You know, I used to have the stool down. I used to also get beat. You know, so we move more towards the stool down or the face the wall type side of discipline, where it's not physical in nature, but you are going to understand that, you know, this behavior is not appropriate and we don't want it, and to encourage, you know, her to do the things that we'd like her to do. So, and about the social media thing, you know, that one really touched me. It really affected me because, again, I'm a girl dad, and I'm looking at these things on Dove, and I'm like, no. Like, I couldn't imagine like sitting there and listening to this and looking at my daughter and having her ask me, well, Dad, do I need to straighten my teeth, or do I need to be skinny or anything like that? And I do believe that, you know, fathers in particular in the lives of their daughters are very, very, very important, because, you know, my daughter, I can literally do no wrong in her eyes, you know, like anything I say or do is right, you know, to the point where sometimes my wife gets upset with me because, you know, she always takes my side, you know, Elena always takes my side. So, you know, I would really just stress, you know, the importance of, again, just giving that you know, that love and that holistic focus of dealing with kids. You know, yes, we're Nigerian, and greatness is within us, regardless to, you know, whether you're spanked or, you know, discipline is presented in other ways. And, you know, I have these conversations with my parents because they weren't truly the traditional Nigerian parents. You know, they definitely, you know, had some traditional things about them, like, you know, the whole hair thing. Akin also knows about the hair thing. You know, but they tried their best, and, you know, grace is given to them, and grace will, you know, I pray grace will be given to me with my daughter, and she'll know that, you know, ultimately we tried the best that we could. That's it for me.
Thank you so much. But Ade, you saw why I waited for you to see the social media part before I brought you on. So, and the hair thing that you said, you know, who would ever think that I would allow my son wear, you know, not cut his hair, wear dreads? But I was the one who told him to do it. And we fought over this. That story for another day, because it was needed. I made him do this. And now it's like, I'm not cutting it. Very well. So we'll see what happens. Well, I promised you a surprise. You saw the video you just saw, Dove? Did you notice the races of the pairs there, the mother-daughters? You notice that there was a Black woman on there, correct? With her daughter. And did you notice what the daughter said? She was the only one who was not perturbed and who had not been touched by those social media nonsense. They said, my mother taught me this. My mother has trained me not to listen to this. That mother is Miss Ruth Odaudu, all the way from Canada, and she's on with us tonight. Kindly unmute and come on the forum. Thank you. And thanks to Dr. Aluya for connecting us.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so happy to be on this page. I'm so grateful that you invite me over to tell you my experience with the dove. We'll talk basically on toxic on social media, bad influence on kids, how it could motivate them to do what they're not supposed to do, making kids insecure, kids not to be contented with what they have. We talk about parents should be aware of what their kids do on social media. You have to get your kids closer to yourself. You have to know what they do on a daily basis. You have to make your kids your friend so you can see what they do. If you are not close to your friend, your kids, you can't talk to them. It's not by nagging, it's not by shouting, it's not by, you have to be friendly with them so you can ask them, what are you doing on social media? Monitor what they do. See the people that influence them, because there are a lot of toxic things. And when kids see what they see on social media that are not right, they come home and they practice it at home. But you, the mother, the parents, both the father and the mother, you are the one to tell them the reality of life, that what they see on social media is not what it is. Some of them are not real. So many fake, toxic. And that is what the campaign we do, so people could, the awareness, so that people could learn, parents could learn how to get close to their kids more and tell them the reality of life, the natural thing to be done, not to copy life from social media. And again, we have to monitor what the kids do, like who they talk to on social media. It could be the wrong people. A man can be on social media pretending to be a woman. And if you don't know who your kid talk to, it's going to affect their life. And it's going to bounce back to you as parents. And they call. So this is the campaign we did on Dove. I think I want to let the parents know, especially African parents, you know how we are with our kids. I'm on social media with my kids on daily basis. I check who, we have one account together. Always monitor what they do daily basis. It doesn't mean you're gonna stop them from social media, because there are other things they learn positively on social media. But the negative things, if you are not monitoring them, you will not know. So that is why we have to do this, for people to know, for parents to know. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Thank you for coming, and thank you for what you do. We have lots of people on this forum. Yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to know if it was okay for me to just add something to what you
Please, go ahead, please.
No, anything you want to say.
The African parents, even now that I'm a parent as well, I've been one for a long time, but I'm more of one now. I've learned a lot from the way my mother raised me. I've learned from, some of her parenting fails, and, some of the ways she's taught me that actually, has benefited me in my recovery. It's not that we should be friends with our children and things like that, because I've seen that go terribly wrong. But, it's good to have like a friendly attitude towards them. The way you should approach them and talk to them.
Yes.
Because sometimes African parents, and even me, I catch myself yelling at my kids like they're a stranger, they're strangers. But that pushes them away. And it makes it where, some animosity grows in their heart. And it's like they want to challenge you because they feel like you're always yelling at them or, and it causes dishonesty because when you feel like you're going to get in trouble, a lot of times kids are not going to tell the truth when they feel like they're always being yelled at or they're always going through this. So a good thing to do is just to sit and talk to them, ask them what's wrong. That's something that I wish, I was asked more, was what's wrong? Are you okay? What's going on? How was your day? And it'll allow the children to be able to open up more and to be able to build a trusting relationship where they feel like they can tell you things. Because social media, even when I was young, computers, we had the dial-up computers. And that on those, I learned a lot of things that I was not supposed to know, But so these days it's a lot worse. People will do anything for acceptance. People are doing things, selling their souls basically for the acceptance of people that they don't even know. So like she said, we have to be cautious as parents, and I was just giving a suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That is so awesome. That is yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I'm sorry I didn't introduce myself the first time. My name is Ruth Daudu. I live in Canada. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much for that introduction again. So we appreciate you coming, and Adeyinka, thank you for that input. It is golden to me, especially because I see how you're parenting your children now. It's amazing, and like I said, you're just going to keep going up further. Monique has a hand up. That's my sis, Monique.
Hello, everyone. I wanted to say thank you so much for all of this dialogue. It's so wonderful. What the two ladies just said about not raising, like screaming and talking to your kids and yelling, probably 95% of the parents I know, we all scream and shout and scream. And my son, I know single parents sometimes get a bad rep, but I was a single parent, and I would say my son turned out to be a very successful young man. He's now 32 years old, but roundabout when he was 17 or 18, I screamed all of his life. I hollered and screamed at him constantly. Then one day I said, this screaming is not working. He's acting like he hated me. He would shut down, and sometimes he would get worse. I said, my screaming is only hurting me. My heart would be beating. I would feel nervous and anxiety and just angry. Round about 17 and 18, I said, you know what? Let me try a different approach. No matter what he does, I'm going to correct him, but I'm going to talk to him in a manner in which I want to be talked to as well. And let me see if this works. And I'm going to show him unconditional love, no matter what the situation is, even in the process of my anger. But I'm going to talk to him in a way in which I want to be talked to. From that day forward, my son changed. He changed, and it was an unbelievable change. And I contribute a lot of it to the way I changed myself first. And then he responded and fell in line. So just for any parents that's screaming and yelling and being impatient, please try a different method and see if it works. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you so much, Monique. That is
You're welcome.
rich contribution. I appreciate you. I 100% agree. Dr. Aluya, I'm going to call on you. Kindly unmute. Man, you have a mouthful tonight. Did you see I have bombarded you? Now, run with it.
I think one single word for me to say, I am perplexed. That's just the way it is. I mean, so touched and bewildered with everything else, and it's insurmountable the extent of what can occur, can lead to addiction, and what the addiction is. And the essence is, again, as human beings, we evolve. And like they always say, the only thing that's permanent in life is change. And of course, some people add, taxes and all that. But then, just like your son, the last boy said, the way, you were parented is not the way, you parented them. And he's not the way he's going to parent his own kids as well. And so also that's the way it is, because as change come upon us, technology and environmental factors and socioeconomic structures change around us, and they all help us to evolve. Now, we can evolve in multiple ways. And there are things and guidelines or guardrails that help us put us in the right perspective. The question is, where is your strength coming from? What is your succor? What's your strength? And what's the foundation that you have that is helping to build that character for you, to make you become who you are? And even if you're going the wrong path and in the wrong direction, what are the things that will serve as guardrails again for you to change and move in the right path? Just like you showed, I think Mr. Willis, who was that, the first gentleman who spoke, who grew up, right, who grew up, in the same household with his brother, who turned out to be a basketballer, and he turned out to, took another path. And that's the same thing in homes. You find out there are Christian homes where, the father and the mother are born again Christians, they raise their children well, or even other homes as well, the churchgoers and all that, and one just comes out rebelling. And people tend to begin to wonder why. I mean, because there are a couple of reasons that affect things. And that point of impact where that individual's life changed often are not known, even to the parents. It may just be, one thing that the individual saw on TV, or social media. And that is the stopping point where that individual in that home just changes. It may just be one word, even from the mother or from the father, or even from the uncle or from the niece or from somebody around, that will just change them, and that impact will flow and then just carry them on all through life. Why am I saying this? Because if you look at addiction and all the factors that contribute, there's the genetics of it, meaning it's inherited. And as we know, addiction is a heritable disease. The last President Trump, will tell you, and a few other people, like, listen, I will not put a little drop of alcohol in my mouth because I know it runs in my family. And one single drop can lead, spiral that individual to something else. And there are people, again, whose addiction are premeditated or structured, in the sense that if they fall into that environment where they're exposed to it, then they can get addicted. I mean, a lot of us who are here, who were born outside this country, who grew up here, probably did well because guess what? We were never in that environment that would culture us to become who we are. I mean, for instance, a lot of us were not exposed to cocaine or heroin. God forbid if we were, would we have turned out the way we turned out to be? You know, so the genetics part of it, then there's environmental factors as well, to the point where, you know, the people who you're exposed to, the things you're exposed to, we alter how individuals turn out to be. And then the last time we talked about addictive personalities. There are people who have addictive personality type, and those are social issues. They're addictive, they're schizophrenic, they're schizoid, you know, they're dependent personality type, you know, histrionic personality types, all of those. So if you understand what personality types that the individuals are, then you'll be able to get them. But how many of us, especially in our environment, in the Black community, understand these, you know, undulating factors that predispose individuals, our children, to addiction? The young lady who gave her story such, you know, amazing way, and some of the things that really touched me was the need to seek for validation, validation and love. You understand? And we've talked here before. You know, a lot of us grew up, for those of us who grew up in Nigeria, we were never told by our parents that I love you, but we know they loved us. Just because, again, in the environment where we grew up, that's how love was shown, you know. But here, it's different. You have to be verbal with it, because where they grow and the people they hang out with, their parents tell them they love them. I mean, you see a kid that's been picked up from school from a Caucasian home, and you see the mother bends down and squats down eye to eye to that child and say, baby, how was your day? I love you. Our parents, we don't do that. How many times do we squat down to eye level with our children? We stand at the top because, you know what? It shows some form of authority and control and respect, because that's how we were raised, you know. And it's still okay, you know, where we come from. But things are different, especially when we're here. And even back home now, things are changing. I was speaking to somebody today, and she said, listen, I thank God I brought my kids here where it's an environment where I can separate them from certain things. Because even Nigeria now is changing, and it's hard. We see what's going on. I remember in 2019, I went to Nigeria, and the things that I saw, I was shocked. I had no idea those things were going on. So on my way back from Nigeria, I wrote an article called, you know, titled Nigeria's Drug Addiction, an Epidemic of Denial, because I felt we were still denying, you know, those things that were happening. And it's an epidemic. It's an epidemic here that they've been battling forever and fighting forever. It's an epidemic globally. In fact, I think the World Health, the WHO said about 2% of the global population are addicted to drugs, or addicted to one thing or the other. 2% of 7.9 billion. Do the math, that's a lot. And then in this country, we have those statistics. I think 96 million people are addicted to drugs, and even so much more to other forms. And one of the things that's really shocking when I found that, you know, we talked about internet and social media, that I expected that women or girls were more addicted to social media. No, boys were more addicted to social media than girls are. I was shocked. Between age, you know, I think 15 to 18, boys were more addicted and more likely addicted to social media than girls. And the age group that's most addicted is 15 to 16. Now, why is that important? Because that, if you look back on some of those psychoanalysis and growth and adolescent growth development, that's the age where there's a term for it with Sigmund Freud and all that, where they describe some of those things. One of the things that young lady told me when she said earlier was this, that it got to a point, and when she started, what is my role here on this earth? What am I here to do? What's my role? Why am I here? And if you look back, those of us who are grown, at any point of our time? We did ask that question. And that's a question where at that point in time, they're most vulnerable. If they don't have that figure that will help conform them or direct them to a point where they begin to understand their value and role here on this earth, people get lost. And age 15 or sometimes 13 to 16, very vulnerable age. And that's where the age where we must begin to think back and look forward to impacting individuals' role. And we've talked about here again, look, we're talking about raising children and mentorship. You don't have to raise your own alone. You can also parent others who are not yours. And that's how our society will grow, and that's how we'll do well. Addiction is a big, big issue. A lot of families are suffering. And for us who are, Black and of course African, we barely come out to discuss this. We don't want, because I don't want my neighbor to hear this is what's going on in my house and they'll laugh at me. No, it's a problem and it needs to be addressed like, what do you call it? Cancer, or like diabetes or chronic kidney disease, where you need to seek help and when there's help. And unfortunately, in our environment, in our community, we don't have that many psychiatrists, behavioral health specialists. We don't have enough. And even if we do, guess what? Even if we do find, they're very rare, and a lot of our children who have a problem, behavioral problem, addiction problem, who get exposed to the what do you call it, the treatment health centers or facilities, meet people who are not like them, and they cannot relate. It's really hard. I met a young lady who, one of the ones who I wanted to come here today. Unfortunately, she couldn't. And one of the things that she told me, I was really shocking, that she worked in a place was predominantly Caucasian, and some of the kids who were there, who were Black, did not relate to the Caucasian physician because they didn't understand. And some of them came from inner cities where they spoke a certain kind of lingo, and those lingo were lingos that the Caucasian never understood. But when she came and she came down to their level, discussed with them, and then they began to connect and interact with them. Now, one of the things she actually did say again was this, that from the onset of treatment, that there was no termination point. Because where we as what I call physiologic doctors, or whatever I'll call ourselves now, when we admit somebody to the hospital, we also say this discharge begins on admission. But when's the discharge stage for those who are being engaged in the mental health system? And that needs to be discussed with them. And it's a whole family event that everybody must get involved, because this is eating us and it's eating our society. I'll give you a perspective. In 2021, on the average, and in 2021 alone, 96,000 people died from OD. 96,000. And that went up by 21,000 from the previous year. In this country, the average.
OD, overdose.
Yes, overdose. The average for the last couple of years has been 60,000. 60,000. But we know what happened within the last 2 years. COVID exposed all of us to a whole barrage of mental illness. And that has resulted in what we see today. And in this country, over what, $35 billion is spent in fighting, addiction. So why, and I must say, you know what, Dr. O, thank you for this platform. Thank you for what you're doing. Again, we're a family, and we need to begin to stretch our hands and hold the line. Hold the line. We must hold the line to secure our families. This is not the time to say, you know what, oh, me and my family alone, because when the problem comes, you and family will deal with it. There's so many quotations, on addiction and how to separate, but I will end by saying this, and probably will take questions. When you are in need recognize when you need help and seek help when you need it. You know, and with that, we'll begin to find solutions. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you so very much. God bless you. Sister Rosemary, before I call on you, I know you have your hands raised. I'm going to call on Dr. Ronke Ogunleye to quickly just comment on those numbers that Dr. Aluya gave us. He said 2%. 2% is nothing, right? Please, Dr. Ogunleye, if you please unmute and kindly comment on that 2%.
Thank you very much. When he said 2% of the 7.9 billion, I thought, well, just hearing 2% from the point of view of a non-mathematician, they might think it's a small number because after all, 2%, not even up to 10%, you know? So I decided to quickly do the math, and it turned out to be 158 million people are addicted in this world. 158 million. That is not a small number. That is as big as Nigeria. That's the population, more than the population of some countries. So just to put that in perspective. And thank you so much for doing this. I know a lot of people need to hear it. This issue of mental health. And for a lot of our kids and some of us in this country and even back home, I know it is the pressure. Some of it is the pressure of trying to excel because we're known as a people of excellence. So when you feel that you're not excelling, it's a lot of pressure on you and you want to just drown your sorrows in something. And I was happy to hear your son mention that you did not force them to be anything, that you did not force a profession on them. Mm-hmm. And I think that spoke to me because for a while, I channeled my own children to certain professions that I thought will help them be successful. And it's all out of fear of failure, because we see ourselves as sojourners in America. And we know we don't have the privilege that white America has. And so we want to make sure that our kids are set up, that they're in professions where they'll be begged to come and work, not where they'll have to compete with their white counterparts to get a job because they might not get it. But I'm just glad that America is changing. There's more opportunities opening up for everybody. America recognizes excellence, and our children are succeeding in every sphere in America. So I'm so thankful for that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Dr. Ogunleye is an educator and she keeps us on point all the time. Thank you so much again. Sister Rosemary. Sister Rosemary, where are you? You didn't drop off? I don't want to believe that.
Yes, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I just want to, what I'm going to say is that if you have a child that is going through stuff, do not be ashamed of that child. Every child that is going through stuff needs help. I remember in 2012, my daughter, I'm a therapist, and my daughter came to me and told me that she was going to go on a show. I did not even understand what that show it was. It was Bad Girls Club. I looked at her, I was like, I went online, I checked it out. It was a show that, kids that have behavioral issues feature in. So I sent her to my friend that was a psychiatrist. I said, check her out because I don't think this is right. She came back and told me, she said, you know what, let her go. Let her go experience it. I said, no, I'm doing this. Most of my clients are young adults just like her. So she ended up going. When she got there, she did not like it. She wanted to come back. So I kept on encouraging her to stay because I wanted her to experience the experience, to have that experience. So when she came back, she saw herself on TV, she fell into depression. Thank God I'm in this field. I was able to help her. I got her into therapy. She didn't like the therapist that was on my network. I said, you know what? Because I'm doing this work, I don't mind, even if I have to pay $500 a week for you to go see a therapist of your choice, I will do it. Then she found a therapist. I was paying $120 every week from pocket. I didn't care. I didn't care. I didn't even mind. But I sat down in my office one day. I said, you know what, physician, heal thyself. What is going on with your child? I'm a single parent. I have been raising my 2 kids by myself. I said, you know what? This another part of her that is missing, her father's side. So I had to eat up my pride. And then I called, because my ex-husband is almost impossible to deal with. If he finds out what she's going through, he will kill her. So I decided to reach out to the uncles. And then they said, you know what, bring them to New York. My children told them they're not going to stay in the family house. Get them a hotel. They agreed. Went there. That evening, we went to a restaurant. My brother-in-law was loving my daughter so much. My daughter was giggling. She was so happy. I was like, oh my God, this is what is missing in this girl. She needed this love. This time she has stopped going to school. The next day, when he went into his room, he said, you know what? I want you to go back to school. Even if you are going to go to Harvard, I will pay. My daughter came back. I mean, they gave us a lot of money. Took my bank account. They were sending money to my account, giving the children whatever they needed. My daughter went back to school. Guess what? She got to school. You know, she got a scholarship, and she graduated magna cum laude. So what am I trying to say is that every child that is going through stuff out there, there is a cry on their inside. Identity crisis is real. Even other adults, still, some of them still do not even know who they are. There is a question that every man is asking themselves in this life. Who am I? Where is my place in life? What do I do with my life? Is there any meaning or eternal value to life? If those questions are not being answered, there will be an issue. And then they're going to start looking for sex, money, success, every other thing to fill that void. Every one of us has a void in us. Until we fill that void, there is no way you're going to be looking for something wrong that is going to fill that void. So my appeal is to parents that please spend time with your children. Your children need love. If you don't know how to love, go and learn it. I teach love in my office. I'm about love. There is no door that is shut that love cannot open. Pay attention. But it has to start with you. You have to learn how to connect with yourself, how to love yourself, how to be friend with yourself, how to have relationship with yourself before you can start having relationship with other people. So may God help us. Thank you. That's my take.
Amen. Thank you so much for sharing, sis. That's my girl. She's my girl.
That's your baby. That's your daughter.
Remy, Miss Remy, kindly unmute. You have your hand raised. Yeah.
There you go. Thank you very much. And I want to commend Nelson for what he has done, for what he said so far. I think he was right on point. A couple of things that I think is missing here is that it is very difficult to teach something you don't know. You know, so we have a clash of culture, and most of the parents really don't understand it, and they don't know it, and if they don't know it, they can't teach it. So where do you get the knowledge? So the knowledge comes from something like this, from somebody like Dr. Aluya, and the rest of the speakers, people that have spoken. And sometimes you just have to be a little bit patient, a little bit patient and just listen to the kids. Most of the issue is not with the kids, it's with the parents. I'm sorry to say that, but most of them is from the parents because they don't take time to understand their children. You don't take time to show them what they are actually looking for. You are imposing on them what your knowledge have been, not what they are within your environment right now. You cannot impose, or you can impose to be unsuccessful, the culture in Nigeria as it is to come to try to impose it here in America because the environment doesn't allow for that. Okay, so the major issue, I think, is number one, the knowledge that is lacking with the parents. Number two is the clash of culture. And number three is the expectation. What you expect from your kids based on your knowledge and what you know and sometimes yield to your disappointment and frustration of the kids. Okay, so paying attention to the kids is very, 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 very important. That's what I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate your input. I just realized that, believe it or not, it's like 2 a.m. in London. I'm going to bring Dr. Ajayi on because I wanted him to round this up, but I'm bringing him on now. Dr. Ajayi, kindly unmute and give us your insight. Dr. Ajayi is a psychiatrist. That I'll let him introduce himself because it's a psychiatrist that is beyond your regular psychiatrist. It's I'm looking for a word. Psychiatrist par excellence, who is sowing, seeding, watering in our communities. And I'll let him introduce himself. I can go on and on. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Doctor, for that very kind introduction. And just for what you do as well. I mean, I'm heard by the things I've listened to this evening or this morning. Thank you for all you do. And I'm also really very inspired by everyone that has spoken. I'm inspired by the authenticity of those who have shared their lived experience of being young adults or being growing up as maybe second generation or first generation Black people in the United States. I just thought that I would sort of summarize everything that I can hear today. I think one thing that stands out to me is the issue of identity and acceptance. I think that very word or that theme actually sort of wraps everything together this morning or this evening for everyone. I can see Dr. Aluya has done a very good job in terms of really highlighting the issues that push people to addiction. And when one thinks of identity, that's an issue that cuts across board, like it's been said as well. And in my experience, just not only as a psychiatrist, but being involved in community mental health and being involved with interacting with parents and young adults, there are quite a few things that I feel stand out. And in terms of what do parents do, what can parents do to actually help young people or children to establish a healthy identity that will make them to develop into stable, socially adjusted, and mentally well adults. And it looks like it boils down to three things for me. One of them is that to let them know they're irrevocably loved. Their love is not based on performance. Yes, we want them to do well at school. We want them to fulfill their potentials. But like every one of us, there are ups and downs to life. And even when they are losing, that's the time when they really need to know that we love them irrevocably. I suppose the second one is that they are uniquely made and crafted for life. Peer pressure is a very strong thing. And for young people to be able to know from day one, by we affirming them over and over again that they are uniquely crafted for life. They are one of a kind. There is no one like them on the surface of the earth. And usually when I make this point, I get excited about it because I feel that I'm privileged because I'm an identical twin. So when I say it, I can say it from the point of experience and say, look, I really believe these things because I know they are true, because I'm a very identical twin. Even in our 50s, people still find difficulties telling us apart, including our wives. But that's story for another day. Right. And the third point I think in terms of identity and acceptance is that every person on the surface of the earth has a life that has purpose to it. And that's something that all the speakers have alluded to today as well. So I'm just trying to summarize all these things that we all, and young people, from day one, we need to let them know, to affirm them over and over again, that they've got a purpose that is attached to their lives, that they need to be aware of, and that they are not here by accident. Quite a lot has been said about fatherhood, particularly the roles of fathers in the lives of young girls. I've got 2 daughters myself, so I can relate to that, which is a very strong thing. And I like the fact that Dr. Aluya actually said that we not only have to parent our own children, sometimes we have to parent other children who are lacking that role. And we do know that research shows that we can have parents who compensate. The other figures can compensate in the life of people when there's a missing person in that life. There are 2 other points I'm going to make because I'm aware that our time is well spent. And that's the power of unconditional love, which has been very powerfully displayed. Really, when it boils down to recovery, the love, unconditional love, empathy is something that has been echoed over and over again here tonight. That's what Dr. Ho has displayed to the people that she's had, to both Mr. Irvin as well as Miss Adeyemi, and there's such a healing recovery power in that, and that's something that I think we need to bear in mind all the time. And of course, social media. There is indeed, it's not just what people are saying. There's actually indeed research. There's a piece of research from University College London showing that social media, extensive social media time is associated with poor body image, low self-esteem, depression, and anxiety, particularly in young girls. Of course, boys are not exempted. It's important to bear that in mind as well. And of course, intergenerational value conflicts in terms of, I side with the idea that screaming doesn't work, nagging doesn't work. The other one that I hear young, because I work with a lot of young people in the community, is our gesticulation. When we start doing all the drama with our hands, they don't get that message at all, and it just puts them off. So I just want to conclude that I am really inspired by what I've had tonight, and I want to end on a very hopeful note that I believe that these things are life-changing, that this one event at a time, that we're actually changing the narratives. It might look like a small thing, but lives are actually being transformed. So for everyone who's contributed tonight, everyone who's spoken, everyone who's contributed to this collective knowledge, and for Dr. Who has brought us all together, I just want to say, much appreciated. God bless you.
Thank you so much. And I appreciate you so much. I enjoyed your talk on Thursday. You have to come give us our own special version. You know I'm going to call you.
Thank you for the invitation. It will be my privilege to do that.
Thank you so much. And I know it's 2 a.m. over there. Please, we release you to go rest because tomorrow is another work day. God bless you.
Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night. Good night. Thank you. So we've heard all various aspects. I want to bring Baba up, Professor Ahmadu Baba, to come give us the social aspect in a few minutes. And then I'm going to bring Pastor Mrs. Fawole to the forum. And unless we have questions, we'll round up. Please unmute. Professor Ahmadu Baba is a socialist. Professor, there you go.
Am I unmute now?
Yes.
Okay. You know what? I don't want to repeat everything that others have said. So all I can say is that there's one young lady, most of them have given, they have identified the problems and they have given, in my opinion, the protective factors and how we can do better. And right. So these are all social issues that I deal with every day, actually, believe it or not. As I said before, about most of my students have written all their papers on, some of them on parenting, some on drug addiction, some of them on teen suicide and all those things. So I see those things every day. But parenting, I think, is very important. And I think the doctor says something very important. They say what we call the clash of values. There's a clash of values. And that's very important. As I said earlier, I think one time I said, we are Nigerians that were raised in Nigeria, and we are trying to raise American kids here that were born here, and they had no idea how the Nigerian culture is. And so we have to try to find a way to balance that with them. So that's very important. And One thing I'll leave you with that my daughter always said, Dad, no expectation, no disappointment. So I don't know what so I agree with some people. You don't need to put too much expectation. However, I mean, we all hope that they do better. And so so that's what I can say. But it's already been said. So I don't want to keep repeating it. Thank you for the speakers, and thank you for the youth and the people who actually share their life. I think I was just listening to, everybody from your sons, his idea how you, and I like the word you used, laissez-faire. You wanted to be strict with him, but you let him say, hey, I'm going to ground you for 11 months, but but then you let it go. But he knew that you are not happy about what he did, but he now decided, you know what, I'm going to do better. Even though Mom didn't punish me as I thought she would. So I heard all those things. Like the first one, the lady that talked about her life experience, your mom, was I going to say, your mom should be your role model. I think she, as you say, she endured a lot, but she was able to continue to support you. And I hope that you'll also take that, as she is the only person that can be your role model. Sometimes we look for a role model outside, and we shouldn't be doing that. We should look within our family, that the ones who care for us, everybody else wants to use us for their advantage. But our family will always want us to be on the right track. So that's all I can say. Thank you so much. And God bless everyone. And I will be saying thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Now, we'll have, please kindly unmute Pastor Mrs. Fawole. You're muted. You're still muted.
Yeah.
There you go.
Thank you so much, Dr. O. Thank you, everyone. It's been a blessing listening to everyone speak. Thank you, Sister Rosemary. Thank you for being, making yourself vulnerable and sharing, your personal story. It is a blessing to all of us hearing, blessing to me personally. And I'm very grateful that I'm able to partake of this program. God bless you, Dr. O. You were a life changer, and I pray that God will continue to empower you. Also to everyone here, Dr. Aluya, Dr. Ronke, and everybody. So I guess the only thing I want to add to what we've been talking about, I am an educator by profession, and I'm also a minister of God, praise the Lord. So I feel that all of us that are here, we're here for a purpose. So in our corners, wherever God has placed us, that we continue to spread the word and, continue to educate people. I think through this knowledge, through the awareness, that's how we will learn and grow and continue to evolve. So, and for those of us that still have, even if our children are older, maybe they're in college or younger, I know that in our culture, we're not used to telling our children we love them because our parents didn't tell us I love you. But it's something that we have to learn, to tell our children we love them, to let them know that we love them unconditionally, and to move away from comparing our children, to their siblings or maybe our friends' children. Maybe in Nigeria, maybe that works. I don't even think it works, because in my family, it created a little problem, because my dad, he decided to call it like he saw it. And this is my favorite child. She always do this and that and that. And then my older sister till tomorrow, we were not friends, and we're not as friends as we should be. So thank God for Jesus Christ that we all embraced, and now we're trying to patch it. So it's never a good thing, to be comparing children. So let us please move away from that, I guess, as much as we can. And also to move away from this idea of boys are better than girls. I know we don't say it, but a lot of things that we do says that. You know, people have a girl and then we tell them, oh, it's okay, next time you have a boy, you know, and that is saying something, you know. So our children, all of them are special, and we have to let them know that, especially in this culture where we are living. It is very, very important for us. Children learn where they live. And I want to say that to inspire the child, we have to show them their superpowers, not ours. I know all Nigerian parents, we all score A's. We never get F's. You know, we tell our children all those stories, but we all know it's not true. So I don't know, maybe some of us here get all A's, but to inspire our children, we just have to show them their own superpowers. And right there, they will see that, yes, they are capable of doing what is it that they set out to do. And every child they are all intelligent, they're all capable. It is what we sow into them. If we help them to believe that they can do it, then they will go ahead and do that. So as we've been talking about let us engage with our children. Somebody told me before my oldest son went to college and said, well, when you start calling them and they're not answering the phone, or they're telling you, oh, I'm busy, mom, that's why I couldn't return your text or your call, something is up. So find time to go there, you know, let's engage with them. Just like the scripture say, a child left to himself, it brings shame. Our children will not bring shame to us. So we have to really follow them. We have to engage with them. We have to make sure that, you know, they get what they need. And once we befriend them, hopefully they'll be able to tell us when they are experiencing problems, you know, when they're experiencing teasing, bullying, and because it's a real thing for our children. And if we're not friends with them, then they're not going to tell us. You know, they rather tell their friends, and their friends will tell them what to do, which might not be the best option. So we just have to create this time to befriend our children so that they can be our friends. And I also want us, I think Dr. Aluya had him talking about us getting help or seeking help when we need help. I think it's also important for us to join life group, join different groups. Because I think that's how we're going to learn. Maybe in our churches, women group, men's group, life group, whatever that is, just like a group here. Maybe we can all tell other people about this platform, so other people can come and also learn. And I'm speaking to myself also, you know, to share this platform so that all of us can learn, all of us can grow together. And I also want to say that as parents, we should also forgive ourselves. Even if if we feel like we haven't done it exactly right, let's forgive ourselves and just move on and begin to do what we know, you know, what we know today, and begin to put it into practice. I pray that Almighty God will help all of us. Suicide, depression, anxiety is a big deal for our children right now, even the youngest one in elementary school. Before pandemic, you know, talking about all these racial disparities, we know that in our Black and brown communities where we do not have all the access to what we need. And now with the pandemic, the research or the percentages is really not favorable at all. So this is the time to move closer to our children like never before. And let's ask questions. Government is well, they're pouring resources out to schools. So if we need anything, let's ask. The worst answer is a no, but let's really seek out and ask for help if we need it. So God bless all of us. Thank you again for this platform.
Thank you so much for your rich contribution as always. We appreciate you. Because you live what you say. That's huge. Thank you. Believe it or not, it's 9:24. We're going to call it a night. We appreciate all of our speakers and audience as a whole. We all make Medical Mondays happen, whether we listen, contribute, ask questions, you know, we we call speakers, whatever part we play. This is our Medical Mondays family. I pray that the Lord will give us the wisdom that we need to get better, to grow. There is room for improvement for all of us.
Yes.
I learn every week. I've learned a lot today. I'm just so grateful for Mr. Lewis, Adeyinka, Christina, Akin, Ade, and our panelists, as well as Monique, Rosemary, Dr. Guleye, Mr. Remy, everybody that went out and participated. Miss Dr. William Craig, gentle giant, who sits there and, always, contribute richly. We appreciate each other. I said all of this, this is not something I normally do on Medical Mondays, but I decided tonight because tonight is so special. When we're so comfortable with each other that we can share about ourselves openly. Believe it or not, we have moved giant steps on this platform. Dr. Ajayi, who came from London, would probably still have been on if I didn't beg him to go rest at 2 a.m. in the morning. It's Monday, and it's Tuesday morning already in London. We have made giant steps in trusting one another, in just being free and comfortable here. We will continue to grow together as we, delve into other subjects, no matter how difficult they are. We will break them down and we will learn and grow from them. I want to conclude tonight that addiction is not just cocaine, opiates, marijuana, speed, and all of that. Addiction can be food. There's a lot of food addiction, especially in the United States, that we need to work on. Addiction can be exercise. Some people are addicted to exercise. People may think, oh, exercise is a good thing, and so not think of the possibility of addiction. But these are things that I have dealt with. These are things that I've treated in people, bringing this out from personal experience. Adeyinka said something that really struck me, and it keeps resonating in my spirit. She said that anything you have to have. She said, maybe it's not Satan, but it's close to Satan. Does anybody remember her saying that? You know what? Satan, close to Satan, it all equals the same thing. But I want to say that anything we have to have has become our God, our lowercase g God, and we need to refrain from it. That's what I would like to conclude with tonight, that we should look inward and see what kind of addiction we may have and work on, overcoming that addiction. Thank you for another wonderful Medical Mondays. We have not established care in all that we have done. What we have done is disseminate cogent, real medical, social information to build us up, to grant us more knowledge, and to give us better lives. But we have not established care. On Medical Monday, we don't establish medical care. So thank you once again. And until we see next week, please keep safe. Good night.
Good night.